most unpleasant surprises of the Obama era so far has been the sudden loquaciousness of Dick Cheney. After 8 years of calculated, mostly silence as vice president, suddenly in the first few months of the administration that succeeded his, Dick Cheney has been everywhere, except on this show. He's everywhere except this show, talking about national security. But earlier this month, the former vice president checked into the hospital for back surgery. And now, while he is recuperating, we are getting new, unsolicited national security advice from an even more surprising source, someone who has been effectively invisible since the election. It's former National Security Advisor and Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice.
Our national security interests are very much tied up in not letting Afghanistan fail again and become a safe haven for terrorists. It's that simple. If you want another terrorist attack in the United States, abandon Afghanistan.
The person who was National Security Advisor when 9/11 happened, and for 9 months before, is now telling us how to avoid a terrorist attack.
And I ask you whether you recall the title of that PDB.
I believe the title was Bin Laden determined to attack inside the United States.
That's the person from whom we're supposed to take how to avoid a terrorist attack advice now. And her advice is that we should just keep on keeping on into year 9 of a war that she helped start but never bothered to win. Never bothered to win, maybe because she didn't notice we hadn't won it.
The Taliban has been defeated.
With the Taliban eliminated and Al-Qaeda badly damaged, we've moved now into a second stage of our war on terror.
With the Taliban defeated, that was June 2002. That was 7 years ago that Condoleezza Rice said we had defeated the Taliban. So she was going to go on to say it'd be a great time to start a whole nother war. Well, now she's got some more advice for us on national security and foreign policy and war. Anybody interested? Anybody buying what these folks are selling now? Joining us now is Sam Stein, political reporter for the Huffington Post. Mr. Stein, thanks for coming on the show. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
We had sort of gotten used to seeing former Vice President Dick Cheney rub his hands together over the prospects of more terrorist attacks during this presidency. Not hoping for them, obviously, but certainly, I think, hoping to blame someone for them if they happened. Condoleezza Rice had been keeping a pretty low profile. Why do you think she's speaking out now?
Well, she has been keeping a low profile, and it is surprising to see her take these rhetorical steps against the Obama administration. I'm sort of confused why she's speaking out now. Obviously, it was part of a Fortune magazine interview that she conducted last week, but she has been keeping a low profile. I think a large part of the administration officials, the past administration officials, feel it's their duty now to defend their policies, even though, as you pointed out, in Afghanistan, the concerns that she's talking about were largely created by the Bush administration's policies. They could have won this war. With Dick Cheney, with Condi Rice, there is a sense that you can get to the point where if another terrorist attack occurs, you can say, we told you so. And I know I talked to a bunch of people who were pining for Dick Cheney to run for the Republican nomination in 2012, and we're talking just about that scenario. If there was another terrorist attack, he could run on a national security platform. So there's a political opportunism here.
Wait, people are hoping for Dick Cheney to run in 2012? People who aren't Democrats?
Exactly. This is 2012. This was an article I did 2 weeks ago interviewing Republican strategists about 2012, and they all talked to me about Cheney and how he was perfectly positioned to run on a national security platform against Obama in the 2012 elections, in large part because of the arguments he's been discussing in public appearances, which is that we need to go on the offensive and use military might to keep the country safe, and anything less would be endangering U.S. citizens and U.S. troops. So it is actually a relevant theme within the Republican Party at this juncture, and I think there is ample room for political maneuvering that Condi Rice and others are taking.
I almost couldn't hear the end of your answer because of the champagne corks that were apparently going off all over liberal New York City. In all seriousness, though, Sam, you have been reporting this week from the neoconservatives' new gig. Yeah. They're calling themselves the Foreign Policy Initiative now instead of the Center, what is it, the Project for a New American Century. What are they advocating now?
Essentially the same thing. This is the outfit that was started by many of the intellectual authors of the Iraq War. They are former Bush administration officials, as well as some of the people outside government, like William Crystal, who laid the foundations for the intervention in war in Iraq. Right now, they're saying that you need to essentially follow the advice of the generals in Afghanistan and devote 40,000 new troops there, or else you risk failure and lives of U.S. forces. Senator John McCain appeared before them today, made the argument that if, in fact, Obama were to not follow the advice, he would, in fact, be endangering the U.S. forces that are currently there. Mitt Romney, another prospective 2012 candidate, went there and accused Obama of acting like Hamlet by deliberating over strategy in Afghanistan. For this crowd, essentially, there is no solution that doesn't have a there is no problem that doesn't have a military solution, and so it's not surprising to hear them advocating for more troops in Iraq. But you thought that they would be a little bit more intellectually discredited after what happened in Iraq. Sorry.
Well, during the whole Bush years, I mean, that's like, I guess the big existential shame-based question that I have. I mean,
exactly.
In their discussions with one another, and when they talk about what they're advocating now, I don't mean to sound rude, but is there any sense of shame that they might have been wrong about anything that happened during the Bush years, or do they see the Bush years as a success?
They see them as a success, and John McCain actually made note of this today in his comments. He was talking about what Obama needed to do with this new report, and his pivot was, well, when I was in the Republican primary, I had to face the tough situation myself. I advocated for the surge of forces in Iraq, and look, he was a huge success, and so Obama should do the same when it comes to Afghanistan. This group of foreign policy thinkers, again, like I said, really is sort of a machismo take on what can be done in Afghanistan and anywhere else in the global community. Their main point of contention was that Obama has a vision of America failing and that he's just trying to shepherd it along through failure. They think America exceptionalism is something that we need to attach to, and so anything that happened in Iraq, or for that matter in the first few years in Afghanistan, is sort of swept under the rug. No one really considers it.
Wow. Like 9/11 didn't matter, like that didn't happen on their watch, and the first 8 years of Afghanistan, there's nothing to tell our current history. Sam Stein, political reporter for the Huffington Post. Thanks for your reporting. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Rachel.